I'll need a motion.
I move to approve these warrants.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carry.
Excuse me, who was the first person who motioned for them to be approved?
Janet.
Janet, thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I can't see everybody.
No, you interject anytime, please.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
Okay, so then we have the approval of the financial reports, which include the August and September warrant summary sheets, which we just looked at, and the budget. We get to the budget report. Does anybody have anything on the budget report?
I have a couple of questions about the budget. I know we've gone through this before, Ike, with the periodicals and the microforms that were already 58%.
Correct.
17% into the year. I had a question about that, and also about professional services, how that's so high.
Right. So those two are high because at the beginning of the year, we're at the beginning of a new fiscal year, and the periodicals is primarily a renewal, a bulk renewal of periodicals for the year. So it's front loaded at the beginning of the year. And similarly with professional services, those are things like service contracts that are paid at the beginning of the year for the whole year.
Okay.
Is electronic services high because of the COVID?
It is high because it is similar to those two other things. So it's renewal of databases, which are annual subscriptions that are renewed at the beginning of the fiscal year.
And repairs and maintenance, a little high. Is that?
Yeah, that is unusual, although there are some service contracts there as well that are paid at the beginning of the year. So things like elevator inspectors and.
They're paid down. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Does anyone have any other inquiries, questions?
Is there anything moving forward, like that you're imagining because of all of the video conferencing and all of that you're now doing, that we need to reallocate anything already?
I don't think so early in the year, but I'm glad you asked those questions because those were the very things I was going to point out, those things that we are kind of front loaded at the beginning of the year. I mean, I do see that we did just get the bill for the flooring project. So that's going to take another big bite out of repair and maintenance going forward. And so we may at this time next month need to do some reallocation. The good news about the flooring project, it'll come out of the balance for repair and maintenance, but we've already been gotten a nice check from the insurance company for it. So in essence, it's already been paid for. We just have to pay the bill now.
Okay.
And the monthly income report.
So I would say we're on track with everything except for, as we anticipated, we took some action early in the year to eliminate fines and fees. So fines and fees is kind of the wild card at this point. I don't imagine that by the end of the year we'll be anywhere close to our $40,000. Right now, what we're collecting, we do have some income, but what we're collecting is on fines that were owed before we shut down in March and on items that have been lost and people are paying the replacement cost for them.
And what's happening with the cafe space?
The cafe space at the moment is where we're housing all of our quarantined returns. So
Okay.
when items come back, they are held for at least 4 days before we check them in. And that's the space right now. It's chock full of returns.
Okay.
No.
So eventually, Hike, we'll have to fill in the gap
Correct.
from the fines and fees.
Right.
All right.
So, and just FYI, I wanted to let you know that Manita is joining us now.
Welcome, Anita.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Manita.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions of the income report? If there's none, then I'll need a motion to approve the financial reports, which would include the August and September warrant summary sheets, the budget report, and the income report.
I move to approve all of the financial reports.
I second. It's Terry.
So that
All
was
in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the president's report. I don't really have much. I just wanted to really thank the staff for continuing to work so hard to deal with all the issues and all the craziness that's they've had to. And it never seems to stay steady as the library continues to open up in stages. There's still this delicate balancing act between safety and providing service to the community. I know it's hard, and people are out of position and out of place and filling in for doing other things. And I just really want to say, on behalf of the board, I really want to thank the staff for continuing to cope and to deal with it and providing service to the community at a very high level. I also want to congratulate the library for the recent award that he accepted, the environmental award. That really reflects well on the library and the sustainability initiatives that the library has been trying to achieve. And so again, thank you very much on behalf of the board. I'd like to welcome Kristen, who hopefully will swear in. I don't know if we can swear her in. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we'll vote on her as joining the board a little bit later. So we're very happy that Kristen's here and is joining us. And the only other thing I came across that I noticed was we had a discussion about Juneteenth as a holiday in I think it was the July meeting, and I noticed that the State Assembly and State Senate both approved the bill making it a state holiday. So I think that's on the governor's desk. I haven't heard anything. I don't think it's been signed yet, but I think that is I'm pretty sure that will happen. So it's, we should all kind of stay tuned for that. That's good news. That's all I had.
All right, thanks.
Do we have any public comments?
We do not. No.
Correspondence and communication.
Likewise, none.
Then we've reached that point for the Mr. Pulver's report.
Well, to give you an update on reopening, we anticipate that, the library is closed this Friday. Originally, we would be meeting for our staff development day, but since we're not allowed to do that, we have kind of a reimagined staff development day. And I'd like to thank Tara for doing the yeoman's work of imagining what staff day looks like this year. I participated in actually a kind of really delightful getting to know Carol Daggs, who's a community member who has a new book out about kind of Saratoga African-American history, which was really wonderful. And she'll be doing a program for us coming up in October. But we're going to take advantage of that day. Rather than reopening, we're going to take advantage of that day to kind of, as much as we can, put the first floor back together so that by the end of the week, we'll be allowing people access to the entire first floor for browsing. And what that undertaking entails is right now we've got the circulation checkout operation happening in the community room in order to keep people moving in a one-way direction. So we'll have to move workstations and the holds, et cetera, back behind the circulation desk. And we anticipate that doing that, we'll be able to let a few more people in at a time. We won't necessarily have to limit it to the 10 that we're limited to now, because we'll have a little more space. And we'll have to do a little less retrieving materials for people from closed parts of the library. So inching into the next phase. And then we're hoping that by the beginning, that first Monday in October, that we will be able to begin taking appointments for computer users to use the computers on the second floor. We've arranged them. Don has done a ton of work to arrange things so that we'll have about 25% capacity in the computer center, but about 10 out of the 40 workstations will be available for appointments there. What we're still discussing is whether, when we do that, then we open up the second floor for browsing as well. Doing this, we're still rearranging furniture, et cetera, eliminating seating, because we don't feel like we're in a spot yet where we're feeling super safe to have people come and linger for a long time, but to allow people access to the collection to browse more freely than they can now is what we're aiming for our next phase. So I don't know if people have questions about that.
I do.
Yes.
Is that you want mine? Janet have one as well.
Okay.
Are you creating on the first floor, when you open some of that space to browsing, a space that will have some of the nonfiction from upstairs and some of the children's collection from downstairs?
We have done already. So in the browsable space now, we have included, it's mostly new and popular, but we have moved in and included a fair bit of children's material. And then the things that are not in new and popular, that are only housed upstairs, are nonfiction DVDs and nonfiction audiobooks, but we've moved a selection of those downstairs as well. So there really is, the entire collection is apart from the reference collection, is represented there.
And it looks great. We were there a couple of weeks ago, and a few days ago. Everything seems like weeks right now. But you know, they were in really nice slots, and the kids, you know, things were in like dinosaurs and potty and, you know, stuff like, and it was really easy to access. You could sort of go based on the kids' interest, get books, you know, based on their reading levels and stuff. And it was really well done. You didn't feel like you were missing the whole downstairs section.
And if I could interject, I just put Halloween up today.
Like, how many people do you anticipate that you'll be letting in at the same, you know, at one time in October?
Well, what we're aiming for is, for the computers, we're taking up to 10 appointments. They're going to be spaced out a little bit so that we won't necessarily have 10 people arriving at the same time. But so 10 computer appointments. And, you know, right now we're allowing 10 people into the kind of limited new and popular space. So if we expand that to the entire floor, I'd say we might be able to accommodate maybe 15 at a time. The good news now is, I think that apart from the very first day when we had a steady line all day long, that hasn't really happened. It's kind of modulated itself, and I think it's very rare that we are stopping people to ask them to wait outside. So I, you know, that might change as the weather gets colder and as we open up more of the building, but the more that we open, I think the more the space can accommodate.
And the Friends space, you said there would be some access potentially once the floor, the floor project is finished, but they're regulating that themselves in terms of numbers that they're going to allow in and all of that.
That's correct. And I'm not sure that they've made any decisions about that. What I do know that what the Jeff Budge, who manages the bookshop, has in mind is appointments, like one family or one person at a time, 15-minute slots in and out. But I know that the board of the Friends is also meeting next week, and they may have to weigh in on what Jeff's plan is. So for now, before that meeting happens, because we had anticipated that he might open late last week or this week, but I think now there's a little bit of a hold until after the Friends board meeting next Wednesday. Any more questions? Yes, Frank.
Did you want to say anything about the circulation trends?
Yeah, let me go back to this. And so the floor is done. You saw the strategic planning. We've totally revamped the survey, since the world has changed so drastically. And we're going to hope to, before too long, release that survey. The Green Business Partnership Awards, I did want to, since they're here in the meeting, I know Tara and Jen F, and I believe Brendan's in the mix somewhere, have really been champions of our green activities and promoting especially the Bike to Work Day. I don't know if you can see over my shoulder here. Can you see? These are our coveted Bike to Work Day trophies that we've gotten. This one every year since 2016, and this one the last couple of years. So one is for the largest team from a large employer, and then one is for the largest percent of participation by a large employer. So. And they're actually kind of cool things. And so I wanted to thank everybody who's been involved in that, which has really been the whole staff, but we've had some real champions when it comes to promoting this notion of bike to work and transportation. So thank you.
I want to give a shout, if I may, too, just to Patty, because she's not.
Oh, to
here.
Patty Raftery, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So Patty Raftery, who is a clerk in the children's department, has frequently captained the team as well and been a real proponent of it. So absolutely, thank you, Jen. This is the problem when you start naming names, you always forget people. So at least I do anyway. So thank you for that reminder.
I know she stayed after work to see the cleaning crew to make sure they signed up and helped them sign up online because they had no clue how to do it. So.
Right. All right, so we'll go back here and just to show you a little bit about circulation trends. What I did here was give you a little bit of a chart of comparison of us and Clifton Park and Crandall libraries, who are kind of the three largest libraries in, are the three largest libraries in Sal's. Just to give you a bit of a snapshot about where circulation is. So if you look down here in March, we're the blue one. So we typically are the busiest library in terms of circulation of all of the libraries in Sal's. And that was true at the beginning of the year. In March, the difference, I think the big gap between us and the other two libraries, we were open for half of that month before we closed. And then Jen F maybe can correct me if I'm wrong. I think we may have also gotten some additional circulation numbers there because for a while, since we were uncertain of what our circumstances would be, and we really kind of anticipated that we would be closed for a couple weeks at that point, we were manually renewing things, and I don't know that other libraries were doing that. So as things came due, circulation staff were going into our circulation system and making sure that things were renewed so that people didn't get overdue fines, et cetera. And that was before we made, as a consortium, some decisions about really a large number of free days, which means that no fines would be charged during that time. Then if you look at April, May, June, that circulation is really, we were all closed until the very last week of June. That circulation is people doing their own renewals online through the through what we call the PAC, the Public Access Catalog, or e-materials. And then you see, as we get into July and August, Clifton Park has been slightly ahead of us in its phased reopening. And so you'll see that they're slightly ahead of us in circulation for these months. But you see, slowly we're getting back to where we were. I think for the month of August, we circulated about 50% of what our normal circulation would be compared to the previous year. And you'll see that Crandall is still a little bit lower than we are because they're a step or two behind the other two libraries in their phased reopening. They're still primarily, I think it's just a few days ago that they've opened up a portion of their building to allow people in. And it's a very limited schedule, and they're still operating primarily by a curbside service. So allowing people into the building to do some browsing and not requiring the appointments for holds, et cetera, I think does make a difference. And I mean, you see it reflected in the use of the library material. And then rather than give you the I don't know, 30-page report from Agora Pulse that was hard to interpret. These are the numbers from that report that Gina's been generating. And rather than also give you our typical statistical report, which at this point is not super meaningful, I thought I'd give you something a little bit different in terms of what our statistics look like. So I don't know if you had any questions about those. And then this list is all of these Zoom-based programs that we've done in July and August and how long they lasted and how many people participated in each of them. So you can see that we're using Zoom a lot, and I think to pretty good effect. In fact, we just subscribed to a third licensed use, so because we had so much competition amongst ourselves for program slots. So we have one that's dedicated to literacy tutoring, and then two that are dedicated to programs. And then in addition to that, many of us are using it with our own personal accounts that are not library related accounts for shorter programs and for meetings. I didn't know if you had any questions about that.
Well, I would object to 156 minutes for the library board meeting. There's no way. Well, I think this is this is easier, more helpful to give us an idea of that programming. That long Agora Pulse report, that's brutal.
So I hope this is a little more easily digested.
Yeah, it is. I appreciate it. Okay. I guess we're on to the department reports, Ike?
That's correct.
Okay. This is for July and August circulation and technical services.
Correct.
These are these kind of targets are all kind of kablooey, aren't they? Or
they are, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Meaningless.
I started to look at it and I'm like, these aren't,
No,
There's nothing you can do, you know.
you can see I didn't even bother giving you last year's things. I was like, that's just a waste of time. Yeah. The only thing I wanted to point out is I think my computer's not cooperating right now, so I can't see what I gave you, but I think I had a chart on mine as well, just showing how busy we are on certain days. It was good to, when people are really tired on Mondays, it was true. Mondays are our busiest days. And today was an odd day. I don't know if it's because school started or again, it's just leveling out. Mondays might be like the rest of the week. So it'll be interesting to see the trend report that I've been keeping. I think we're leveling out again where we're just being open, which is fantastic.
Yeah, part of the tricky thing with Mondays, which makes it busier, is that with our quarantine time, you know, we wind up checking in 2 days worth of materials on Mondays, in addition to whatever arrives in the delivery. And most other days we're checking in 1 day's worth of stuff that came in 4 days ago, but because you know, we've got an odd number of days in the week, we wind up checking in usually loads of stuff on Monday. So it does become labor intensive. Anything else, Jen?
I've got nothing else to add unless anyone has questions.
Is that a lot of work to be the co-chair for the ALA conference committee program?
I don't know yet. I don't think so. They just, again, I don't know if it's a sign of the times, and I actually don't know how many submissions they used to get, but it looks like we'll be reviewing less than 100, which is, to me, seems very low. I think institutions are probably very, they might not approve people to go to a conference that might not happen, so people aren't submitting proposals. Conferences will be interesting in the future.
Yeah, everything's going to be different. It's the way people work. Okay, thank you, Jen. Next in my pile is youth services.
Okay. Well, our big program this summer was the summer reading program. And we had 77 register online through Beanstack in the children's and 64 in the teens, which is a really, really good number for the teens. We don't know how many total people we had in all, because in consideration of people who may not have had access to a computer and weren't able to get here to enroll themselves on Beanstack on a library computer, we passed out bingo sheets. So people had the option of either registering online or picking up a PDF bingo sheet that we had available. So they have through the end of September to turn in their sheets and get their prizes. And then in October, we'll have an idea exactly how many we actually had. But we thought that was better because that way everybody has a chance to participate if they wish. Pickups have been slow though. We've been kind of really disappointed. We have 100 prize bags ready and they're still ready. So not that many people have come. Let's see. We've done the usual story times, and Sarah has done baby bounces. A couple big summer programs we had that were really popular was Peter, Paul, and George, and there's, you know them, they're the fiddlers and dancing, and they're always really popular. And the Dirtmeister, and we have a new, well, we started them in the spring, a new group of people called Create, and they do mindfulness programs and art programs, and they seem to be quite popular. I mean, they don't have, you know, huge 100 people crowds, but they worked out really well. With the teens, we had the adult and the teens did a cooking program with Jody Fitz. She's with Price Chopper. She's always very popular. and no adults joined, but we had a lot of teens. So maybe we should do one just for teens next year. And the trivia is popular. The Dungeons and Dragons kind of fell off. I mean, we still did it, but we need to explore different platforms which Heather is doing that work better with what we do. And and Heather started one that had only 3 people, but I really like it. It's called Write It, and kids get together and share their ideas on writing. And they're working on writing a children's book right now. So that should be interesting to see. And that's it, I guess. Does anybody have any questions? I didn't mention everything, so.
Thank you, Laura. Adult Services.
Hello, everyone. Yes, so I just came back from the island, so I am super relaxed, but also very cold. So.
Yeah, you look cold.
Cold.
You have no heat in your house.
It wasn't the Bahamas. It was, St. Lawrence River, but 6 miles from Canada. Anyway, yeah. So July and August, as I think both like and Laura have pointed out, it's been an unusual summer. With everything with COVID, but we've been trucking along and trying to do as much as we can. So just a couple of things that I wanted to point out for some programs that we tried. Trevor did a Zoom practice series that was well attended, and just to give patrons the chance to actually play around and see how Zoom works, to get comfortable with it. And so again, that's been pretty popular and well attended. Caitlin had put together a Saratoga scavenger hunt, which is actually part of our staff day activities as well. So, sorry, this is Gizmo.
I fed my cats before the meeting for that very reason.
Yeah. But yeah, so Caitlin put together this really great scavenger hunt for Saratoga Springs, and I know some staff are looking forward to doing that too as part of our staff day. Chris has done a phenomenal job with having an online American Sign Language program, and it's amazing. We constantly are getting signups and people posting on Facebook when we're going to offer the next one. And so it's been a hugely popular series that I think we're going to continue for quite some time while it still remains so. And Callie did a contact tracing program with someone from Skidmore, which also was well attended, to talk a little bit about privacy and the ins and outs of that. And Saratoga Room, I wanted to mention, Lori's been weeding away with the help of some of the computer clerks, so we've been trying to give them work to do, and I think Lori's been really grateful for the help there. And also she and Jasmine continue to work on the Leaving Our Fingerprints program that they've been working on to solicit information about people's experiences during this time. So yeah, so all in all, even though it's been kind of a wacky summer, we keep trucking and trying to do some interesting and different things. So that's about it in a nutshell, unless anybody has any questions for me.
I just had a question about, like, how do you foresee, like, the Saratoga Room becoming available again, or?
Yeah, so that's part of what we're talking about when we reopen the computer centers on October 5th. So along with that, taking appointments for use of the Saratoga Room. So that will be overseen by Lori. She'll be there to take appointments for people one at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, to use the room. In addition to that too, we're also looking to have the microfilm readers available to be booked for appointments for people, along with the computer center. And I'm just thinking if there was anything else in line with that. And as I mentioned, we're still in discussion about if the second floor is going to be open to the general nonfiction collection for browsing or not.
Does anybody else have questions for Jen? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Tara?
Hi, good evening. So, yeah, we've had some resignations recently. Sorry to see some long-term folks go. What we've seen actually since the beginning of work from home is that a handful of folks who had actually been working for us in retirement on a part-time basis, like Ron Pedrick, have really decided to reassess and truly enjoy their retirement. So we're really happy for them for being able to enjoy their true retirements. We're sad to see them go. Ron was a 20-year veteran of our workplace. So reopening, we continue to have to tweak and bend to the ever-changing executive orders. One came at the end of June having to do with travel restrictions, and that's been in place and has been updated on a weekly basis since the end of June by the governor. So we did incorporate into our daily screening questionnaire, which we talked about the last time we had an in-person or a live board meeting. That went really well with rolling that out to staff, and we did have to tweak it by adding an additional question about travel. Knock wood, we haven't really had too many conflicts to deal with regarding any of this. And again, knocking wood, our staff have been healthy. As far as accommodations, we are receiving more requests from staff as we reopen more to the public, and we've had to be very sensitive to the concerns about safety, again, reiterating all of the things that the library has done to protect both patrons and employees alike. So we continue to accommodate where and when we can, and to take all the precautions, again, recognizing that we are entering a time when we are also going to need more of our folks back to serve the public. So that presents some challenges for us. And we will be, as a management team, looking at the staffing situation for the near and longer term in the coming weeks. We have a flu shot clinic this coming Thursday. This usually draws about 20 people, including some of our volunteers. As of today, I think we had 30 folks signed up. It's also been extended to family members. We did decide to hold this on site, feeling that people might feel more comfortable coming to the library for their flu shot rather than trying to navigate a doctor's office or another retail clinic. So the response has been robust. And I do, as volunteers, I extend the invitation to any of you, our trustees. If you would like to come, please be in touch with me. Again, there are probably about 10 slots remaining. It will be held right on the ground floor of the library in an area that's still restricted to the public. Excuse me, it's restricted to staff only. We did kick off our staff development event. This year, we're holding it over a 2-week time frame instead of on a single day, recognizing that not all staff can be freed up, especially in light of all of the shifting that we're doing now in preparation for our next phase of reopening. So we started today, and yes, had a great conversation with Carol Daggs this morning. And in the afternoon, we were graced with the presence of one of our own employees who's also a published author, giving some resources for aspiring writers on writing. I did send out the invitation, as has been the custom, to include trustees. So if you look back to your email from last week, you should find that invitation there with a link that does continue to be updated on an almost daily basis as I continue to add additional programs, primarily ones that are going to be available on an on-demand basis. But I really thank the staff that stepped up and were so generous with their time and expertise to be able to present to their colleagues. So I'm really looking forward to the balance of the 2 weeks. And that's all that I have. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I did have a question. So the payroll tax holiday, we're not doing that. We're not participating in that because it's really not. It's really not nailed down. It's kind of, we could end up owing money later on. Is that why?
We're not participating in part because it's a deferral. It's not really a holiday. It's going to be, there are going to be taxes that employees would have to pay anyway come January in the form of doubling up on their withholdings. So because the memo from the president did not mandate that employers offer this, we opted not to, because not only would it not really be a thing that ultimately employees would benefit from, since again, they would end up having to pay back these taxes that were suspended temporarily over a 4-month period in the beginning of 2021 by having twice as much withheld. But should any of those employees, had we offered this, should any of them have left our employ, we, the library, would have been on the hook for paying those deferred taxes. It was a liability. So ultimately, it was not really in anyone's best interest to offer that. And honestly, when I put the staff memo out, letting employees know that that they might have heard of this in the news, but that the library was not opting to offer it, I actually got a lot of positive response from employees saying, "Oh, good, I'm so glad, because I didn't want to have to do this anyway."
Great. Thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
Does anybody have any questions for Tara? Okay. Thanks, Tara.
You're welcome.
Mr. Rick Taras, is he here?
I am here.
Are you healthy?
I'm fairly healthy as long as I follow doctor's orders and don't try to lift stuff. So I'm doing good. I'm getting lots of walks. Today was my first day back at the library, and those stairs gave me some little bit stronger exercise. We did good. There's lots to catch up on. As you see, we still are spending a lot of time, trying to tune the library and make it look good. As Ike stated earlier, and to my amazement, the floor got done, really pretty quick. I went over it with a fine-tooth comb this morning, first thing. I have asked a service technician to come do some touch-up pieces just in very hard cut areas, just to make sure that we have a great product, and that for the life of the floor, it'll be easier to clean and, stay the way it looks right now for as long as possible. So overall, I think they did a great job. I'm still amazed at how fast it really happened. I expected much more subfloor problems with cracks in the concrete, and evidently that didn't materialize, so I'm happy. Other than that, the other good thing was Rich Hellenick actually got all of that lighting outside changed over to LEDs. So not only does it help us, on the electrical usage side, but these old fixtures with these, it's halogen lighting, and they use these ballasts that were hard to get, expensive, and they created a ton of heat. And with that fire, it really scared me to see that, because one is stacked over another, and that literally could have followed the electrical line back into the library from the outside. So I think that was a big accomplishment, and we keep moving forward. I think we're doing well. Any questions? Comments? Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Okay. So next is would be special committees or committee reports. So I think I spoke last time about creating a couple of standing committees. I spoke about creating actually three. One would be a long-term planning committee, one would be an evaluations committee, and one would be a nominations committee. But on reflection, I don't think we need a nominations committee, and we don't need one to be standing. One can always be created when necessary. But I am at this time going to create two standing committees, and I have proposed a revision to the bylaws as well. There would be a long-term planning committee and an evaluations committee. I thought that 3 people should serve on the long-term planning committee, and that 2 would be enough for the evaluations committee. So at this point, I'm going to appoint to the long-term planning committee Janet Lindner, Terry Diggory, and myself. And as to the evaluations committee, I'm going to appoint Heather Crocker and Katie Capelli. And then the scope of the, I've tried to outline kind of generally the scope of what the committee will be expected to do in the proposed revision to the bylaws. I would note that the committees are subject to the open meetings law. So when the committees are going to meet, there'll have to be a notice. There'll have to be some kind of a notice, maybe at the website, that a particular committee is meeting. My understanding from the Committee on Open Government is that that's what we have to do. Without further ado, do you want to take up the proposed revisions to the bylaws at this time? Has everyone had a chance to see it? I know that Terry, you had a suggestion, I think, about some.
Yeah, just for the continuity of language, to consistently refer to the long-term planning committee, because under the heading long-term planning committee, it says the library planning committee.
Yeah, so you'd rather just say the long-term planning committee in substitute for library. That's fine. That's a fine change. So with that amendment to my proposal, has everyone had a chance to look at it? Did people have any comments, questions, any potential revisions to it?
Does this have to go for 2 months, like we vote on it tonight, or we
have to vote on, if we vote on it tonight, if we have an acceptable version, then yes, we have to vote on it again next go around to make it official.
So do we actually vote tonight, or
we just review it?
I thought it's just presented for a first reading.
Well, I sent it out so people could have a reading, but there's no rush if people want more time to consider it.
No, I'm just asking about the process.
Right. Do we vote twice, or do we just tonight discuss it and then vote next time, which I think is the right answer? I don't know, though.
Well, my understanding is that we would vote, assuming this version was acceptable to a majority of the board right now, then we would vote to approve it, but it has to be approved at a second board meeting. So we'd have to vote again next board meeting to approve it. It's 2 votes. It takes 2 votes to change it, to adopt it. That's my understanding.
So Frank, you know what, that has been the practice, but looking at the bylaws right in front of me, it says amendments may be proposed at any regular meeting, but shall become effective only after a favorable vote at a subsequent meeting. So it doesn't say that it requires 2 votes, but I can tell you that that has been our practice for as long as I've been here. So
Amendments to the bylaws may be proposed at any regular meeting, which shall be conducted only after a favorable vote at a subsequent meeting. Well, I guess, you know, that's true. I guess that's been the practice, that, as you suggest, and that's what I'm used to.
and that's why I made it an action item on the agenda.
Right.
Creature of habit.
Usually, though, you can, you discuss it at one meeting and then vote at the other. So that's more common practice, but.
Well, I think that works. That's fine. We don't need to vote on it now. That's fine. And by that reading, as Ike points out, that we've been doing it probably unnecessarily, having 2 votes unnecessarily. So, yeah, so, all right, so that's my proposal. And we can vote on it at the next meeting. The proposal includes the change. And maybe at the next meeting, we can put Terry's little change in there and maybe we can vote on it. Unless anybody has any thoughts about this now, or, I left it somewhat general in some ways, but I'm sorry, did somebody say something?
Frank?
Yes?
I just want to go back to the open meeting question. You said that you checked the open meeting law about.
Well, the opinions that I saw from the Open Meetings Committee say that it's committees of the library would qualify, would be subject to the open meetings law. It's also in the I believe it's in the trustees handbook.
I always thought it was if you had, a significant number of members to your committee.
It's not a full meeting of the board to meet in committee.
That's what I thought, that if we were 2 people meeting, then it wasn't.
Well, I'll tell you what the handbook says. It says for public library boards, which including us, the requirements of the open meetings law apply to all committees and subcommittees of the board. In the opinion of the Committee on Open Government, if 2 or more trustees are members of such a committee, even if they, and this is italicized, even if they number less than a quorum of the entire board, open meetings law applies. That's on page 29 of at least the 2018 handbook. I think, as a practical matter, that we'd have to just give notice to on the website. I don't know that there'd be any other.
Wouldn't you have to keep minutes? Because
I was just thinking,
right?
maybe minutes. You'd have to keep minutes of what was discussed. But.
And do you know how it's handled right now, given that these things would likely happen over Zoom? So we would have to somehow orchestrate it that then the meeting was open and there was a link put in, right? Because it wouldn't be something Ike would be planning for us.
I don't know, we'd have to arrange, if we wanted to do it, if you don't want to do it in person, which I assume you could if you were socially distanced, but if you wanted to do it by Zoom, then I guess we'd have to ask maybe Ike or the library or we'd have to just Zoom between ourselves, I guess. But it has to be streamed, so that's a problem. I guess the library would have to do it.
So, and as it stands now with the executive order, it has to be streamed live and recorded and then transcribed.
Right. And the other option is just to meet in a socially distanced manner. So I think whoever, the members of whatever committee would have to decide what they would prefer when they meet,
And are the spaces, Ike, is the boardroom that we usually use at the library, is that something that we could use as a committee room for a committee meeting or something?
Absolutely, yes, yes. At this point, I don't know that you'd want to meet with more than maybe 3 people in there in order to maintain the distance.
Right, but it sounds like one committee is just 2 people and the other committee is 3 people. But But
the-
that is not something you want to go try to do in a really public space and try to be distanced.
Right.
Nor do you necessarily want to stream it live and transcribe it after as a committee.
I think it would be preferable to do it, in person, with the masks and socially distance and all that, all that, right? Just seems a lot easier.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so I guess we'll defer a vote until the next meeting on the proposal. Okay, so, and then I guess we're to old business, Mr. Pulver.
I think I covered both of these in my report.
Okay.
So we can move on to new.
Then that brings up the appointment of Kristen Dart. Okay. All right. So I assume all of you had a chance to peruse Kristen's impressive resume, and I would like to. I'd like to move to have her appointed as a trustee to the board to finish out the term ending June 30th, 2021. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Kristen?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute fast enough.
Kristen is now appointed to the board. Congratulations, Kristen.
Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
I don't know how you, how does she do in the oath thing? Does she?
So I think we could, it's actually turned out to be fortuitous that Sue Pettit is here, because I think what we can probably do is arrange a time for Kristen to come in and for Sue to administer her oath. Does that work for you, Sue?
That's fine, Ike.
All right, so
Just let me know.
All right, great.
Kristen, because you're a public officer now, we have to file an oath for you in the county clerk's office
Can't wait.
to make you official. All right, that's great. We are actually a full board now. Okay. Ike, we have the financial audit situation.
So we had, as we had discussed in the past, attempted to get a second proposal for our financial audit. We've been for years working with Marvin and Company. We thought that we would want to change that up based on advice from the comptroller, just to have occasionally a different set of eyes looking at our financials. However, the additional proposal did not come through in time for this meeting or last week's meeting. So what I'm asking is that the board approve appointment of an engagement of Marvin and Company to do our audit of financials for 2021.
For the new members, Marvin and Company has, for I guess several years now, done the audit for us, and they usually do a good job, and we have a good relationship with them.
And to be perfectly honest, in the conversation, so Eric and I had a conference call with the other firm that we were considering, and it sounded like they could do a fine job for us, but in the course of the conversation, it did start to seem to me like, given the uncertainty of everything that we're experiencing now might not be the best time to be trying to bring a new firm on, especially given that, just the circumstances that we're in and the proximity that we're going to potentially need to have with people who are here
You don't want to change horses in the middle of this stream.
Not this stream particularly, but I do think it's definitely something that we will want to consider in the future years. So Eric, I don't know if you had anything else to add.
First year audits generally have a lot more questions, and so it'd be a lot more time at the library and face to face than with Marvin. So that seems like the good option for this year.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve hiring Marvin and Company to conduct our yearly audit?
I so move.
Second,
I'll second. This is
Kristen seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Frank, I'm sorry, who was the person who seconded the motion?
Kristen Dart,
Thank you.
No, no, I think it was Heather Crocker.
was it?
I
don't
think we
think-
did.
Oh, and I don't know that Kristen can until she's been sworn in. So that's
That makes sense. I was just trying to start my work early.
okay.
So it was Heather?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Do you have anything else, Ike?
Let me go back here and see. Nope, I think that's it.
Like, I wanted to just say, I was impressed by the survey that they are working for the strategic planning. I thought that it was really nicely put together, and you clearly have been having conversations with them to try to change what route, for us to work with this new time. So I liked it.
Yeah, thanks. I thought they did an excellent job on the revision myself. It's long, so hopefully people will make their way through it, but I think they did a great job.
I agree. Yeah, looks good. So if there's nothing else, I guess we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.